Stop me if you've heard this one before. Penn State football needs to add a wide receiver out of the transfer portal. And this time, that's going to be pretty tough to do when they have to lose at least a dozen players in order to add anybody new.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This Penn State roster is well over the limit when it comes to its scholarships, so they're going to have to lose a lot of players to the transfer portal before they can get anybody back. This is Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Zach Seyko, and thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That is right, guaranteed. That's $150. Win or lose. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So this is a transfer portal preview talking about the needs, expectations as far as departures go. KeAndre Lambert-Smith could be one of them. At the time this episode drops, so much is going to change in the span of 24 to 48 hours as the transfer portal officially opens, where players can actually be in the portal Tuesday, April 16th. So this is an overview, a preview of what's to come for Penn State football in this spring transfer portal window. But Penn State is over the scholarship limit. It's about 12 to 15 players too many here. Everyone's count is a little different. You look at The Athletic originally reported this with Audrey Snyder saying, hey, Penn State does have a lot of too many players here, and that's up to 99, so 14 over. Well, they got to get to 85 by the time that West Virginia game rolls around. So meaning that players, up to that many players have to go before Penn State can even consider any new additions. And let's begin with the needs before the expectations as far as the departures. And to start with wide receiver once again. Like I said, stop me if you've heard this one before. Wide receiver, you are losing a starter in KeAndre Lambert-Smith, right? Eventually, he is what we anticipate going into the transfer portal. But at wide receiver, you're going to lose possibly one of your three starters here. You could also lose other wide receiver options. And with that being said, there might be a starter quality type of player in the portal. Penn State's got plenty of depth. James Franklin has said there's plenty of talent, but no one is standing out from the group. What if there's a player like that in the portal? They absolutely. So if James Franklin's telling us consistently, week in, week out, every time we get to talk to him at a press conference, Penn State needs a wide receiver once again, especially if you are going to lose. KeAndre Lambert-Smith, I know the jury's out on him. I've seen people say, good riddance. Hey, goodbye. Other people, hey, this is a big deal. Regardless, you are losing a starter. You're losing a veteran. You're losing a fifth-year player, a player that knows the program very well. And that's going to be tough to replicate here, regardless of what your thoughts are. Be honest about what KeAndre Lambert-Smith is. He's a quality player, but he's not a number one wide receiver. And we've talked about that on this show. And then they need cornerback again. I know I got done praising A.J. Harris and said he's going to be a number one type of cornerback for this Penn State defense. Jalen Kimber's going to prove to be very good and added depth. But I look at the depth chart and I can't help but think, is it enough? Even though they got A.J. Harris and Kimber out of the transfer portal, they had Davian Collins once upon a time, a year ago in that cycle. Is it enough? Sure, they can play more safeties. I mean, they have plenty of safety talent. Zach Wheatley's come a long way. I think KJ Winston and Jalen Reed can be one of the best dynamic duos at safety in all of the Big Ten. Yes, with what Ohio State has, and honestly, arguably top 10 in the country as well. KJ Winston's that good, and Jalen Reed is severely underrated. And then you factor in Zach Wheatley there. So yes, you can play more safeties, but they're really only too deep at these three cornerback spots, right cornerback, left cornerback, and then the slot. Somebody gets hurt, right? Knock on wood. This is a wooden desk, but that's a disaster, especially if it is a top tier talent. So this isn't about getting that same kind of quality talent, but more so depth at the cornerback spot. And then what about departures? Okay, I already mentioned wide receiver. That's an obvious one. But if you look at the count, before KeAndre Lambert-Smith even enters, Penn State has 15 scholarship wide receivers on the roster. 15. Some people might be thinking, okay, why is he stopping here? That is a lot. That is a lot in this case for one position. 15. So somebody's got to go. You have to free up about 12 to 15 scholarships. Not all 15 wide receivers are going into the portal, but there's too many cooks in the kitchen here. So KeAndre Lambert-Smith could be, most likely will be one of them. There's going to be plenty of others too. I think Penn State could lose somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 wide receivers to the transfer portal if it does unfold that way. Again, scholarships. Okay, players that are walk-ons that do not have a scholarship, they can enter the portal. They don't have to. They can still be on the Penn State roster, but it's about getting to 85 scholarships. Tight end's another position to watch. And this is as far as departures go, right? I can sit back and name, hey, here's who I think's going to go. But I want to focus on position group rather than making an individual prediction. Okay, so wide receiver, tight end's another one. There are too many tight ends right now. You have a 5-star prospect in Luke Reynolds who just came in. Andrew Rapplier is coming on strong. Tyler Warren returns. Jerry Cross, Khalil Dinkins, Joey Schlaffer. There are a lot of quality players, but you can only realistically play, 3 or 4 of them consistently? And at some point, when I look at departures, some people are just at make or break points in their Penn State career. You're either playing or you're not. And at some point, your college football career runs out. So you got to make a decision. Am I going to stay here and tough it out? Or am I going to go somewhere where I'm going to play and have more usage in an offense? That could be the conversation for Khalil Dinkins or any of them, Joey Schlaffer, Jerry Cross, right? There are a lot of talented tight ends, but only so many of them can play. Now, that's good for the depth chart, and maybe tight end isn't a spot, but I think it is. I think tight end's a spot where Penn State could lose a player to the portal to get to that scholarship count. Special teams is another one. Interesting note, look at the blue and white rosters. If you want kind of an indication of where the team stands, the white roster, the white team was compromised mostly of the ones, of the starters, of the guys leading the competition. And if you look at special teams, I know special teams isn't that fun, but Ryan Barker, in an opportunity where there is a place kicking competition, Barker was on the white team with the ones, with Riley Thompson, Tyler Dzansky, the starting punter and long snapper, respectively. Sanders Sahadak could be on his way out. So I know I said, all right, I'm not going to name players, but when Sanders Sahadak, Chase Meyer, who is not on scholarship, those guys are in the kicking competition. You only have one kicker, and how often do kickers get hurt? So you don't exactly need a depth chart here. But it's someone implying that Ryan Barker has the spot, at least as of right now, based on the spring season, what the coaches have said. So if that's the case, Penn State could lose a kicker, could lose a punter, could lose a long snapper because you only need one. That's just the fact of the matter. Last one, similar to wide receiver, Penn State's got a lot of offensive linemen. Can you believe that? Because if I was hosting this show 3 to 4 years ago, when Penn State couldn't even hold a traditional blue and white game, couldn't even have a scrimmage because they had to pull defensive linemen to be scout team offensive linemen. That is a testament to Phil Troutwine and James Franklin and the work they've done to beef up this offensive line, because now they have too many. So it's certainly not a depth issue here. Troutwine, significant amount of work to get the roster to where it is, but Penn State does need to, addition by subtraction here. They are going to see some players, some offensive linemen, some backups go into the portal because there's just too many at this point. And so depth is important at offensive line. That's where you see a significant amount of injuries in terms, overall in terms of football, pro, college, doesn't matter. You need as many offensive linemen as possible. But in this case, Penn State actually has too many, and you could expect a few of them to go into the portal. Now, KeAndre Lambert-Smith, is this a big deal? Is it not a big deal? I think Penn State's going to be okay if and when he does enter the transfer portal. We're going to discuss that on the other side of this break. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on each and every game. Right now, new customers get $150. That's right, $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. I use FanDuel myself. I can attest to that. So what are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com/locked on. That is fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet an automatic win. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And today's episode is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or as a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard isn't looking so good. You're feeling low. You're not sure if you or your team can pull out a win. And that's when you dig deep. You lift your head up and you say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, and with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. You can make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. And you can charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends, not just against them, but with them to crack open community chests and go into tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go. That's Monopoly Go, now available for free on the App Store and Google Play. It's crazy how just in a few days' time that we went from KeAndre Lambert-Smith is strongly considering the portal to, well, he's almost as good as gone. Before we discuss KLS's situation, I want to tell you about Locked On's NFL Mock Draft live on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's going to be streaming on Locked On Sports Today's 24/7 channel on YouTube and now on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to hear what the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise with live reactions from college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today's 24/7 channel on YouTube and on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. KeAndre Lambert-Smith, I opened up the show with this, that, quality veteran, you want him on the team. He's going to be one of the 3 starting wide receivers alongside Julian Fleming and Trey Wallace, respectively, right? That's who I would project as the top 3. But on 3, specifically, Penn State's channel is reporting that he's not coming back. He's not going to bet. It does not look good at this point in time. At first, it was a strong possibility, right? 24/7 was saying that, okay, he's strongly considering it here. But now it's much more likely in 48, 72 hours time. And technically he can still come back, right? Just because you enter the portal. So yes, there's a 99% chance that KeAndre Lambert-Smith enters the portal, but does that mean that he's necessarily going to leave? I think Penn State would like to have him back and not want to have to go get another type of wide receiver to replace him unless that hypothetical wide receiver is better, right? We said this in January. Dante Cephas made his move, ultimately landed at Kansas State. And then, I said, hey, KeAndre Lambert-Smith's probably in the same boat here because if you look at the way that they just finished the 2023 season, they just disappeared, right? Whether they were actually on the football field or they just disappeared from the game plan. You went from being a #1 wide receiver to an absolute afterthought. Mike Yurcich gets fired. It's complete change in game plan. You're not a factor in the bowl game whatsoever. You're not a factor in the final 3-4 games of the stretch of the season. So that is truly a fall from grace here from KeAndre Lambert-Smith. The impact of his departure, I mean, it's not ideal. It's not, because I've already mentioned this. He is a 5th-year veteran. He is a returning starter, two-year returning starter, right? This would have been because he was the slot that 2022 season. Then he became the X in the 2023 season. And now he would have gone back to the slot in this case, the #3 option. So you're losing a quality veteran that would have been a starter alongside Fleming and Wallace. But there's also this element to it. You're also losing someone who's clearly fallen short of the leadership expectation. He and Cephas were tasked to be the leaders of the wide receiver room a season ago. And they didn't do a good job. They didn't do a good job leading by example. What I heard is that the coaches were disappointed with the way that the expectations that were set, the leadership component of it. KeAndre Lambert-Smith is a very good talent. He is. But we need to stop pretending that he's Batman when clearly he is a Robin. And that applies to both the football field aspect and the locker room of it as well. And I found the 24/7 article interesting, and some other Penn State spectators did as well. Star wide receiver, early round prospect for the NFL draft. What tape were you watching? What games were you watching? If KLS was that good, don't we think that he would have entered the NFL draft? Don't we think he would have gone this year because he's played 4 years of college football? Fifth, you don't come back for your fifth year unless you need that extra experience to boost your NFL draft stock. Just say what it is. Penn State's leading wide receiver, returning starter, and move on. There was no reason to fluff any of that. All of that was fluff. And then I want to get to this. Why is he entering? Well, I've explained it countless times on this show. That fall from grace, again, taking a step backwards, because that's got to be tough. That is a punch to the gut. That is a punch to the ego, right? I wouldn't like that. You go from the number one wide receiver, any of us would. You're at a position at work or something. Your status is the number one of the wide receiver group. And then as a fifth year veteran, it's not like you had a breakout season after year one and then you move up as a sophomore and then things kind of change going into your junior year. And again, that's not ideal either, but you're going in as your fifth year at Penn State. And they look at you and say, you're not good enough. And then on top of that, I can't even say that KLS was guaranteed a starting spot. So I might sit here and say that I project him to be the starting slot wide receiver. But what is Penn State thinking when they have Caden Saunders, when they have Liam Clifford? So then you not only get demoted, that third starting spot isn't even secured. It's not even guaranteed. Maybe there's a chance that Liam Clifford was in the process of beating him out. I mean, Clifford did get one of these spring season awards there. He was named at the halftime of the blue-white game. So clearly Liam Clifford's had a good spring. What about Caden Saunders, right? There are other options. And I've already mentioned this. Everything kind of resets when the offensive coordinator is no longer there. Mike Yursich, who was coaching KeAndre Lambert-Smith and deciding, hey, how's the offense going to run? He's no longer there. Andy Kotelnicki, it's a fresh start. Your different wide receivers coach. I know Marcus Higgins has worked with him for now the second season, but that's not your original recruiter. That's not your original position coach. Everything's different, and it all changed in a flash. It all changed in a flash for KLS. And then this is being discussed via On3. Apparently, there's an NIL issue. I imagine that KLS is not making enough money to his liking. Let me say this about NIL, and this isn't even specific to Lambert-Smith. This is kind of just in general. NIL, name, image, and likeness, is for you, the player, to make money off of your name, image, and likeness, to make money for yourself. So collectives, specifically Happy Valley United, I'm in the boat of they are not responsible for paying you or anybody a designated salary. They are not responsible for getting you all the money in the world. Certainly they help, they contribute, but in this environment where the NCAA refuses to regulate, because I honestly think that collectives shouldn't even exist. I think it's not right. It's corrupt. It encourages pay for play. But Happy Valley United isn't there to front the bill. You as a player can go make as much money as you want. There's no limit to what you can do. There's no limit to the amount of sponsorships, the amount of dollars that you can have coming in. You can work with whoever you want. Go get a marketing agent and go broker more deals. You don't even have to do it on your behalf. So if anytime I see a report, again, this isn't specific to KLS. Anytime I see a report like this that, they're not happy with their NIL, they're apparently not making enough money, that kind of thing, go get more deals. If you're really that upset, that's the thing. You are not at the constraints of the collective. You can do as little or as much as you would like to. I mean, Sean Clifford went out and started his own company. Now, and that's different sorts of ambitions, and he obviously had team members that he's able to work with. I'm not saying that every Penn State football player should go out and start a company, but if you are upset with your NIL earnings, you can go make more and you can work with people that will help you. You don't even have to go door to door to do that. That is the crazy thing about NIL to me, is that there are opportunities out there. It's not just the collective that says that can help pay you, right? It is that simple. It is that simple because there are no restrictions, there are no limits. Don't do it illegally, obviously, but within respect of the rules, you can go broker your own deals. I do have some more general thoughts about the transfer portal, NIL, right, coming up. Could this be the craziest transfer portal window ever? It's a short existence, but that might be the case here. We're going to discuss that next, coming up after the break. And today's episode is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours, within just a day. Hiring professionals, hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing a lot of hats and might not have the time to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even quicker. 2.5 million businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So be one of them. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I'm going to buy into the hype. Yes, this will be the craziest transfer portal window we have ever seen. And there's a reason for that before we get to it. Help out the show. If you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on the transfer portal and what Penn State will do, can do. If there's anybody you would like to see them get in the transfer portal, a specific position, and like this episode if you enjoy this content. And in this final segment, this will be the craziest transfer portal window we have ever seen when it comes to football. Insiders, reporters, any and everywhere are saying this will be the craziest transfer portal. And I buy it. I absolutely buy it because of one certain circumstance. But it's already starting to take shape. We've seen players that are already in the portal, names, the starting running back at Oregon State, and then the reported amount of $400,000. I know at one time he was into the portal and now he's back out. Bear Alexander, somebody that Penn State at least made a scholarship offer to when he originally transferred away from Georgia. Then he went to USC. Now he was leaving USC. Now he's back at USC, right? This is already just a couple of examples, but it's going to get crazier. And the reason this is the case, the NCAA tipped its hand. They are not going to enforce anything. They do not care about any sort of regulations around NIL. What? Because they're going to get sued or they're going to go to court. What is the issue at this point? But they already have stated that they are not going to pursue any new legal ramifications around NIL, transfer portal, tampering of any sort. So there are behind the scenes bidding wars going on as we speak right now. Players can be poached off of any roster. Nobody is safe. That's the same thing with Penn State. Pat Kraft and James Franklin have already admitted this. They admitted this around the winter part of the season going into the bowl game that they were receiving emails being contacted from other agents saying, hey, are your players interested in entering the transfer portal? And they're like, to our knowledge, no, they're not. And why are you contacting us about our players and if they want to transfer? An agent, a coach, anybody can text a player and say, hey, here's what we have promised for you. It's tampering. It's pay for play. It's all of it. And the NCAA does not care. They're not doing anything to stop it. But a coach can hypothetically text a player and say, get their number and say, hey, we got a role for you here at school XYZ. This is the NIL deal that the collective has prepared for you. Put your name in the transfer portal and let's talk. That should be banned. That should be illegal. The NCAA won't stop it. They don't care. It's pay for play. Fine, whatever. I don't blame the players. I do not blame the players at all. If you offered me, right, we're talking in the neighborhood of 500,000, a million, $2 million to go play football at any school, and some of which, especially coming out of the high school level, you are guaranteed to an extent, right? Not all of it. It's not, oh, 2 million, but this is life-changing money before you even play a down of college football, before you even play a down at your new school. If you do decide to transfer, the NCAA is pointless. They're meaningless. They don't stand for anything. Just stand for something. That's all I want you to do. But I'm glad. I'm glad they'll stand for this. They have no problem writing regulations to say that, oh, high school prospects, recruits, when they're on campus, they can't take too many pictures on those visits. But a school can contact a player that's already committed to a roster and say, and to a program and say, hey, we got $1 million waiting for you if you leave that institution and come play for us. But the NCAA is worried about a high school recruit taking one too many pictures on an official visit. Make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I said it on a recent episode. The transfer portal itself is a double-edged sword. There's good with it. There's also bad. This is going to be the end of a good amount of players' careers, a portion of them, but one too many is one too many, right? In this case. So players are free to pick and choose what school they play for. It's not working out at school A. Let me try and fix it at school B, or even school C, or even school D or E, right? You can transfer as many times as you want at this point. But what if nobody wants you anymore? That's only if a school or a program, a team wants you to play on their roster. People don't realize that this is it for some players. For some players, and schools can push you into the portal. I'm not going to sit on a high and mighty horse here. This is Locked On Nittany Lions, but Penn State does it. Penn State's going to do it. They are going to absolutely, especially when you are 12 to 15 scholarships over the limit, you have to push people in the portal. So I'm not going to sit here all high and mighty. Penn State does it. Every other school does it too, whether it's football, basketball, you name a sport, the transfer portal, you can push players into it to free up that scholarship if you do not want them anymore. And in that case, if you go into the portal willingly or unwillingly, this might be it for you. Your college career might be over, because now the transfer portal, oh, that's great, player mobility. It also allows program mobility. If you're not cutting it anymore, no matter what you poured into that program, a coach, a program can tell you to get out, get lost, and we're going to find your replacement in that same transfer portal. So yes, it is absolutely a double-edged sword. So if no school wants them, that's it. Your playing career is over at the college level, especially, and if you don't want to settle either. You don't like the schools that are interested in you. It is a reality check for a lot of players at this point. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Now, coming up, we're going to have some more takeaways. I have some concerns after the blue-white game. Not everything was peachy coming out of that spring practice game. And I know don't overreact to one spring game, but there are some things to be concerned about, even though I think this team is very talented. I think they're set up very well. But I was able to notice some things that said, you know what? Not everything is great when it comes to Penn State, and hopefully they can fix it with this transfer portal window, summer practices before they take on West Virginia at the end of August. Once again, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. If you enjoyed this content, leave a like on this episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section and share this with friends and family. And if you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering each and every league. Find Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and now available in the free Fire TV channels app.